I thought it was important that we have a conversation about, education and the reopening of schools. I've been watching the news a lot, and it's really a big topic of conversation. I know that one of Biden's agendas was to give money to the schools so that they can open up safely.
Reopening schools within the 100-day period that Biden had proposed is a very tricky thing because it requires, I think, a lot to be in place. I mean, I think up to this point, schools have been doing an effective job of keeping the place safe by cleaning and sanitizing, and the custodial staffs have been doing an amazing job across the country, making sure that people are safe. But the thing that's important for people to realize is that the number of students that are in schools currently are extremely low. So either there are schools that don't have any kids in school at all, some that's in a hybrid model, or then there's some that kind of gradually brought children back. And so it's a very complicated scenario because everybody keeps saying that schools are the safest place to be. But the reality of it is it's tough to say that when kids aren't in school because, I think it's easy to say to people, people who are most affected by the coronavirus. It happens when people are congregated, when people are in concentrated areas. So whether it's in their homes or whether it's in the movie theaters or whether it's in a restaurant or even when it's in the schools, the more people are congregating in those places, the greater the likelihood that people will be infected. So I don't think that you can legitimately do that until people start having a real conversation about the vaccine and really have a conversation about um, just making sure that we can assure safety for everybody. Because you got to think, Dane, is that everybody, teachers and administrators, don't usually live in the communities in which they serve.
Right.
So they're traveling from different cities and different towns to come into those schools, and so you can obviously see that poses an issue as well. So
We're talking about COVID learning laws. We know that children have been learning remotely for almost a year now, and it'll be a year for many communities. And how do we create the resources to provide funding locally for nonprofits, faith-based organizations to provide supplemental learning opportunities? So I'll let you get your thoughts on how to best implement supplemental learning opportunities for children that's trying to catch up.
yeah,
Um, the best example I can give you, when they had the No Child Left Behind funding that came out originally under George W. Bush, and there were a lot of organizations and nonprofits that provided tutoring services. My concern is that with the state of Indiana possibly rushing, putting together some type of a program, that we don't put together a process to vet organizations to provide these supplemental educational
I think
services. So I want to.
again, I applaud everybody who's utilizing these stimulus funding funds and other funds to really try to open schools back up in a way that's safe and effective. And so when you talk about learning loss, that's something that I've been discussing with the OSG family for a few weeks now. It's a very real phenomena, right? But I think we got to keep in mind is it gives us an opportunity to really engage principals and other educators in discussions as to what how do you gauge learning loss, right? I know there are people who consider themselves specialists in it and can tell you that especially black and brown kids, they're going to lose at least a year's worth of instruction. But you know what, that happened in a bad classroom last year too. That happened in a bad classroom 5 years ago. So a teacher who's ill-equipped to do it, unfortunately, it doesn't matter whether it's pandemic, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. It still depends on the leadership of the school and the quality of teachers that are in those classrooms. So there are teachers that are doing an amazing job across this country, amazing, that kids are learning every single day. Again, I have nothing negative to say about my children's teachers. Both my son who's 16 and my daughter who's 8, their teachers are amazing with them. I've been in a lot of schools over the past several months as well, and some great teachers are there too.
But
So
also,
I don't necessarily.
your family is a very supportive family. Not everyone has the kind of family and that kind of support system and the discipline.
Yeah, I think, but Dane, but also too, in addition to that, as I said, a quality teacher is sometimes just as effective as an absent parent. That if a parent isn't around, because we know that this is nothing new. Like in many of the communities, like in Gary or in LA or in New York City, great teachers and great administrators found a way to reach those kids. And I think we got to put a little bit more emphasis on how do we continue to prepare teachers to become better at teaching remotely or teaching blended. We're talking about something that happened almost instantly and overnight for these people. They were in the classroom one day, and then the next day they had to go fully remote. Something nobody has ever been used to. Literally in New York City, they had 3 days. The principals had 3 days to reconfigure their schools so that the students can learn remotely and teachers can teach remotely. That's a very difficult concept for a person who's been, let's say a teacher's been teaching for 15 years. And then now you tell them they got to teach remotely. That's a very difficult thing.
So, I look at the way the world was manipulated with the conspiracy through these algorithms. And I was just wondering on an educational level, because everyone, and we spoke about this, everybody, especially children, they digest and they're on their phones all day. You can learn so much about a child just by understanding the algorithms in the phone and making the education available to them through the phone. Is there a way, the same way conspiracy was manipulated to put things in people's face, that we could use those same algorithms and do it with education and use it for school?
Absolutely, Dane. I mean, you think about it this way. Most of the remote learning tools that are available aren't necessarily mobile. They're not mobile friendly. Like there's stuff that we can use on a computer, but if a kid actually can do his work on on his phone or her phone, there's a strong likelihood that they'll be able to surpass even our expectations of them because they're on their phones constantly anyway. And so the kids understand, believe it or not, kids understand the algorithms better than us. They know how to get more likes and follows and all that stuff on social media than all of us because they have this in their hand all the time. So if they have this in their hand, but it's actually related to education, it makes it a lot easier for kids to actually become friendly with what's happening in their classrooms and stuff like that. Because you got to remember, a kid may not necessarily have a hotspot in their house, but if you got a phone, most likely you have some kind of data plan. So if I'm playing ball in the park and I know like, oh, damn, it's 5 minutes, I got to jump on with my teacher, chances are I'm not going to run home. But if I could do it on my phone, I may just be able to like, yo, hold on, y'all, give me 10 minutes. Let me just go sit on a bench, do my work or what have you. So I think us being able to look at technology and the advancement of it, Dame, is saying same thing that's happening tomorrow with you launching your app. The reality of it is that if everything can be in your phone and everything can be on your app, you can become an entrepreneur. You can become wealthy. You can be successful. So why not think about it from the same lens for young people? I don't know a young person that doesn't walk around with a cell phone, without their cell phone.
What's your thoughts on the 8 through 12 grading system for schools? Because it's kind of controversial, right?
Yeah.
Because what does an A mean? What does an F mean? Typically is in the Black and brown communities where you see the C's, the D's, the F's, school corporations. And it disincentivizes corporations or businesses that want to say they want to move there when an A and an F may mean different things to certain standards.
Yeah, I think, I have to start by saying, the learning loss that I think we are continuing to circle around is very theoretical at the moment because it's very difficult for us to find hard, concrete data of whether there's been a loss or not, right? And so what we end up doing is we set it up initially as if we're struggling so bad. And then what the states have to do is then they have to send in the cavalry. So
Right.
what you may want to think about is the the upside of assessing a school right now, because it may be surprising to know that schools aren't doing as bad as people think that they are. See, theoretically, people say that yeah, there's a learning loss, there's a learning loss, a learning loss, but not for every student. And so we got to be cautious about that, and whether or not the learning loss happened as a result of the pandemic or a grading system, or was it about subpar teaching instruction from the child's teacher. So I think you should still move forward with being able to assess and evaluate a school, if for not necessarily for the grade itself, but for us to kind of, what we don't want to do is miss a year or two of assessing a school and then pick it up next year, because now we have to now be able to match data for next year and go back 2 years to find data that we can actually, could make any kind of correlation to. So I think you got to continue to make an evaluation of the schools annually, regardless of what the circumstances may be. And then from there, we can kind of adjust our analysis of it. But I don't think you should necessarily avoid the actual assessment of the school, because, as I said, it doesn't make any sense at this point for us to keep saying or speaking about this learning loss and then saying, that our kids are that much further behind, because some kids aren't that further behind. There are kids who are actually doing better under these circumstances. So I think in order to get real data, it's important for us to continue to assess and continue to evaluate it, not necessarily by way of punitive measures, but for school leaders to be able to know where their kids are and how the school is performing under these conditions. I think it's very important that we get some kind of evaluative measure in place so that we can talk about whether things are working or not working.
Senator, the purpose of this, and I'm looking at you taking notes. I already know that what we're speaking about is going to end up on that floor, and you're going to be out savvy and outsmarting everybody, and knowing, and I know that whatever you do is going to be for us, because you're getting the information from us. What I'd like to do is, next week, or actually the senator and I are going to have a Zoom later or tomorrow about the laws that he got passed this week and what he's been fighting for. And we're going to focus in on that. And then I would also like to do something about, and I can't forget it, what's going on in these prisons as relates to education, health, and everything else that goes on with it. So as us being a member of the commission, to me, we get inspired by helping, we get inspired by understanding how to help, and we get inspired by action. And that's what this is. And this is what this is all about. So again, I appreciate it. Tomorrow, Dame Dash Studios comes out. It's an app where they're going to be able to digest all this information, like-minded people that want to learn how to do things rather than talk about it. And both of you have your shows, you have your show, and everyone can see it on Dame Dash Studios. And again, I appreciate the time. So anything y'all want to say in closing? We good. I'm good. Thank you. And I hope somebody's listening that can take this information and use it.
Yeah, Dame, I appreciate you for providing this platform. And I think, it's not often that you get experts at their field to actually speak about things that are going on in real time. And so as an educator, I leave people with the clear understanding that as bad as things are, there are great people out here in education doing great things. You can find them on Instagram, you can find them on Twitter, you can find them all over the place, and they're doing great things. So I think we got to spend a little bit more time celebrating those who are doing amazing work versus this theoretical notion that there's this learning loss that's taking place that isn't being addressed by so many principals and teachers and educators across the country. So like I said, let's just take it more from the celebratory aspect of it versus this idea that education is doomed and our kids are going to all, grow up to be nothing,
Hey, Dennis, I told you where I'm at with it. To me, it's an opportunity for change. I'm gonna focus on the good stuff, but I'm gonna be really focused on the progressive things that we've been talking about that now people have to pay attention to. I'm using this opportunity for that. But definitely, things aren't all lost. The principals do figure things out, but they could use a lot
Absolutely.
more help, and things can always be better. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And Senator, anything you want to say?
Man, I feel blessed, man, to be able to connect with brothers like you and everybody that's on the commission, just to tap into a network of folks that help me become a better legislator, a better senator. So I appreciate mad love and respect to both of you and to the entire commission. There's a lot of good stuff that's coming out that's going to benefit our people. So I'll just say, I think we're going to keep building on our team, keep building on our capacity. And I think this is not just a moment, it's going to be a movement. I see
Absolutely.
it already.
Absolutely. Well, let everybody know on that floor, they need to come see us. They want to really know the truth, Let them know.